12:45. Ray, can you believe it?
I can't believe it.
Okay. This Week in Film is the name of this show. It's the weekly podcast where we get together, we talk about the movies we watched over the past 7 days, and then we talk about it. And then today we're going to play a game, which may or may not be another disaster. I'm Nick Panunto, joined as always by Ray Radominki.
And
that's it.
And that's
right
it.
now. Somebody was supposed to be here, and they're not.
a little tardy on.
So yeah, well, that's inappropriate, but
So if that person shows up,
yeah,
we'll let them.
if you've
join
seen Matt V, let him know we're still waiting for him in the studio. We're in Studio A. Is this Studio A?
This is yeah.
Yeah.
Studio A, Matt.
We're in Studio A. We're looking for Matt. So if anybody sees him, send him our way. But in the meantime, Ray, what did you see this week in film?
This week in film, I saw Nocturnal Animals.
You're on an Amy Adams
I am on an
kick.
Amy Adams kick. So it was interesting. So Amy Adams in Arrival kind of plays she plays a linguist. She's kind of a nerd. She's very dumbed down. In this movie, she's smoking hot.
Really?
Yes. So it's interesting to see how differently, she can be portrayed in different movies. So the movie was directed by Tom Ford, the famous fashion designer.
It's a weird thing to say.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Made the guy who Jay-Z made a song about. And this is only his second film ever. A Single Man was his first movie. If you've ever seen it, it's very, very, very good. With Colin Firth, who plays a homosexual guy, kind of in hiding in the 70s. This movie takes a lot of the same kind of stuff that Tom Ford uses in A Single Man, but the story is much different. And the one thing I liked about this movie so much was the structure of it was very unique. A lot different than anything else you'll see. So the movie stars Amy Adams, Jake Gyllenhaal, Michael Shannon, Armie Hammer, Isla Fisher. There's a lot of big names in this.
Oh, Isla Fisher and
Yeah.
Amy Adams in the same movie?
Right. So Tom Ford wrote or directed this movie, and he wrote the screenplay. The screenplay is based on
Breaking news. Matt V is a no-go today.
Thanks for the heads up at
Thanks, Matt.
9:23.
I'm going to reply to him live on the air. He says he's a no-go and that he's off today. And I'm going to reply, oh, okay.
That information would have helped hours ago.
That's cool.
Nice. Whatever, Matt. So Tom Ford directed this movie, and he also wrote the screenplay. The screenplay is based on a novel called Tony and Susan. What did he say?
He says, speak kindly of me. He'll be back next week. I'm going to reply, kissy face emoticon, heart eyes emoticon, and then winky eye tongue out emoticon.
Thanks for describing to our listeners all the different emoticons
that I chose. There's so many more.
Right.
All right. Based on a
book called Tony and Susan, which makes sense because so anyway, I'll get into why that makes sense. So Amy Adams plays a wealthy art dealer or art gallery owner. She comes from a lot of money. She is married to Armie Hammer, who is a wealthy businessman. You never really get an idea of what he does. You just know that he was very successful at one point, and now they live in a huge mansion. They have They used to have a lot of money, but his business is dying. On the DL, only him and his wife really know about it.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to salvage it, and their relationship is completely strained. You could tell that she has an idea that he's cheating. He's always traveling. They're very distant from each other, and her life is really. She's not a very happy person.
And I'm sorry, who is his wife again?
Amy Adams.
Amy, okay. All right.
So in the mail, she gets a package, and it's a rough draft of a novel that her ex-husband wrote. Her ex-husband being Jake Gyllenhaal. You get a little bit of not really much backstory. You just know that they were married. You know that something happened, and now that she now is married to Armie Hammer. And she sees the novel, and she opens it up, and it says that it's dedicated to her. So immediately she's intrigued.
Mm-hmm.
And she mentions to her current husband that like she hasn't talked to him in like 19 years. They've barely spoken. She honestly says, I really have forgotten about him. So anyway, while she's going through all this turmoil, her husband, Armie Hammer, leaves, goes on another business trip. She's already skeptical about what he's doing when he's away. So she's home alone one night, and she decides to pick up the manuscript, or the rough draft, whatever you call it, and start reading it. So that's where the movie kind of switches. So you have Amy Adams in real time reading this novel, and then they turn the novel into a story of its own in the movie.
Okay.
So as she's reading it, you're seeing the novel play out on the screen. And the one interesting part about it is Jake Gyllenhaal plays the protagonist in the novel. So he's kind of writing about himself.
Okay.
And then while she's reading the novel, she's also flashing. It's starting to remind her of like their time together, and you get flashbacks of her and Jake Gyllenhaal they were like high school friends, and then they run into each other later on in New York a couple of years later when they're both in school, and that's how they start the relationship. So you get flashbacks of that. So you basically have 3 parallel stories going on. You have Amy Adams in present day. You have the novel that she's reading, which is completely fiction. It just so happens that Jake Gyllenhaal is in it. And then you have her flashing back to the times when they first started dating and their marriage together, and how their marriage went and how it went wrong and all that stuff. So that's what's really cool about this movie is, and A Single Man does that too, Tom Ford's first film. It just does two parallel stories. It tells his story in the present day and then his past story with his partner, and how that goes. So that's what was similar about this. But the best part of the best story is the novel, because the novel is just gruesome.
Really?
And it's like raw, and it's it's exciting. Like her in present day is just like depressing. It's just like her reading it and her flashing back to like their time together. And then the novel is like a parallel like to their relationship. And like it has nothing to do with their relationship, but like it has everything to do with it. It's like,
right, yeah.
It's just like all these little like jabs at like how the relationship went, and like metaphors for like stuff that happened in their life. But like I said, it's really gruesome. A lot of crazy, gruesome things happen. Some scenes that are like tough to watch. And it just, you can tell by like the set design that obviously Tom Ford is like in fashion. Just like the way everything's, especially in like the present day, like the house that Amy Adams lives in, all like the colors. He kind of does a lot of ways the same way that if you ever saw Traffic. In Traffic, all the scenes that take place in the United States are very blue, and all the scenes that take place in Mexico or across the border are very yellow. Yeah, like warmer colors and cooler colors in America. He does the same thing here with everything in the present day is cool, and then everything in the novel is warm. Okay. So kind of, I mean, it's not really hard to distinguish what is what when you're seeing it, just because of the characters and stuff like that. But that kind of gives you another idea of like where we're at when we're talking about stuff, because you're constantly bouncing back and forth between everything. So that's the part of the movie that I really, really liked. And the performances were good too. Amy Adams is just a really good actress, and I talked about Arrival. What was it, last week? I talked about that. Yeah. She was really good in that. I think she's even better in this movie. Really? Yes. Okay. Really, really good. She just plays somebody who you can tell it's just eating, like, you can tell that she I won't get into why, but she made a mistake with Jake Gyllenhaal, and she doesn't realize it until she starts reading this novel, and like the pain that she has realizing that, and then realizing that her current husband doesn't want anything to do with her either, is like she's basically SOL,
right?
Shit out of luck, and just her. Sorry if anybody didn't know what that meant, and just the way she's dealing with that, she really just conveys that very well in the movie. Jake Gyllenhaal is great too, especially in the novel part, which the novel is called Nocturnal Animals. That's where the movie gets its title, and the two main characters in the novel are Tony and Susan.
Oh, okay.
Which is why I guess the book that this was based on was called Tony and Susan. So yeah, it was great. I really liked it. It's in limited release right now. So I think it's going to be wide release in a couple weeks, so it might be kind of hard to see for people right now. But unless you have, I saw it in an art house theater around us, you might be able to find a theater that's playing it. But I highly recommend it. Like I said, the part that is in the novel is kind of a little heavy for some people. Mm-hmm. It deals with some really heavy things. And Michael Shannon's great. Michael Shannon is just in the novel part. He plays like a Texas detective that's like kind of on his way out. And Michael Shannon, I just love him. He just, whenever he's in, he's great in. Mm-hmm. Just, he plays like a hard-nosed detective who, has the twang and the whole...
will find her!
Right. So he's great too. And Isla Fisher plays Jake Gyllenhaal's wife in the novel. And it kind of makes a parallel to Amy Adams because they look alike.
Right.
They both have red hair. So you
the
have
best
that
hair color.
Right. So you have that going on. So a lot of times in the movie I was like confused. I'm like, is this really? It kind of like blurs the line of like, did this really happen? Did it not happen? I don't want to give anything away, and I won't give away what the novel is about. I leave it up to you to see the movie. But yeah, it was very good. I liked it a lot. So yeah, highly recommend it. Nocturnal Animals.
Cool. Did you ever see Adaptation?
Yes.
That's kind of what you're describing.
Right.
It reminds me of is spoiler alert for Adaptation, but because that movie is about Charlie Kaufman writing the screenplay for the book. I forget what it's called. Orchid Thief.
Yeah. Yes, the Orchid Thief.
So the levels that are in that book, and then how he has like a twin brother, and how like what you're describing about how where you are based on color temperature.
Right.
That's brilliant. Because in Adaptation, but I guess it's the point of Adaptation too, is you don't know what's happening, because that's the point of Adaptation, is that you're watching a guy sell out.
Right.
Basically, but you're watching him do it after he's done it already. So that's it. It's a very intriguing and mind-bending experience.
It's an original thing. Like, I mean, I see a lot of movies, I know you do too, and it's just like sometimes like the same stuff over and over again. It's nice to see a movie that's structured a little differently, that makes you think a little bit. One thing I forgot to add, one of the weirdest opening credit sequences of all time.
Really?
I don't want. It doesn't really give anything away. It's just a bunch of fat, naked women dancing in with Americana stuff on them. It's very strange.
Oh, so it's like different than James Bond.
Yes, a lot different.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah, so that part was intriguing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely want to check it out, because the way you described the movie, I totally want to see it. This sounds new and interesting compared to what did Matt watch? Was that last week? He watched Captain Fantastic,
right?
Where just based on the trailer and the description, we're both like, "Yeah, I get it. I know how this is going to go down," kind of a thing. Whereas this, and from the trailer of the movie, I've got no idea where this movie's going, or
and that's why I didn't want to spoil anything. You got to see it for yourself.
But when people talk about original ideas, that's what they're saying, like interesting storytelling and unique direction of a movie. So that's very exciting to hear, because it looks very good. I this week watched a different kind of movie. I saw from 1986 Eric Roberts starring in Best of the Best. It's directed by Robert Radler, and it's basically the story of the United States men's karate team going to fight in a triannual, a match that's every 3 years against the South Koreans in a basically a precursor to MMA.
Gotcha.
Because the Koreans do taekwondo and the Americans do karate. And when that comes up in the movie, I said to my wife, that's not the same thing, right?
Right.
Karate and taekwondo are totally different. And they are.
Karate.
Although they just call it karate in Best of the Best. Best of the Best it was fun to watch. Very fun to watch. It's terrible, and it was great. It's a movie that
Is it a comedy?
No.
Dead serious?
It's dead serious.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, you should watch it. And I'm going to spoil every bit of it.
Yeah, please do.
So, this is a movie that lives in the shadow of Rocky IV, Kickboxer,
Quite the shadow.
And Bloodsport.
Yeah.
Because it's all of these movies at once.
Came out around the same time.
Came out in 89. Is that what I said? 89.
You said 86.
Right? Did I say 86? I meant to say 89.
Okay,
Sorry.
So a little later than
1989.
When was Rocky IV?
85 or 86.
Okay.
And then Kickboxer was, I think, either the same year or later. And then Bloodsport, which both feel like the same exact
If you told me right now to describe each Bloodsport and Kickboxer, I would get them mixed up.
The only thing
I've seen both.
The difference between the two is one of them has the guy dipping his hands in the glass,
Right.
and then the other one has Jean-Claude kicking down the tree, and that's
Right.
how he knows his training is.
But we don't know which one's which.
Nope. But Best of the Best is about karate, and it stars Eric Roberts, who plays he is 33 years old when they're filming this movie. He looks like he's pushing 60. He looks just terrible. James Earl Jones plays their trainer. He's the coach of the men's karate team. And
Wait, what? James Earl
Jones. And this is post.
Is he like
Patriot
big
games,
and like
I
fat?
think.
Like
He's not as big as he ever was, but he's still got dark hair up top. So, but he's not that big. Like
He's
he
like the
looks like he
sensei?
really slimmed down. He's just the coach of the men's karate team. Chris Penn is in it.
R.I.P.
Yeah, which you forget about too.
Right.
You kind of go, "Where's he?" Oh, right. And then it was told to me by a different Matt at where I work today. He said that Chris Penn is a black belt.
Really?
Like
was
a black belt. Well, I guess he still is. He
Right.
just doesn't put up much of a fight. That's not nice, Ray.
That's
And,
too soon.
Chris Penn was a pretty good actor. Not in this movie, thank you. And so anyway, Chris Penn being a black belt does not show in Best of the Best. It's not a very well directed movie. It's poorly acted. The script is terrible, and I loved every minute of it.
Is this your first time seeing it, or you've seen it
I
before?
haven't seen this movie since I was like 11 or 12, and watching this movie, especially after seeing Bloodsport and Kickboxer so many times, it just kind of bleeds into them. But so that while you're watching it, it feels like you're waking up from a dream where you just keep saying, "I remember this. I remember this." So here's the story. Eric Roberts, when he was younger, was a competitive karate guy.
Right.
Like competitions and stuff. Something terrible happened to his shoulder where he had to have reconstructive surgery. He works in a factory in Portland now, and he has a son who's turning 5 or is 5. He gets a letter from the United States men's karate team saying, "Come try out for this big match." So he does. He makes the team. There, I just saved you 30 minutes. And on the same team are Chris Penn, guy who looks like Bob Saget, guy who has Amish beard, Asian guy, and Eric Roberts. That's the 5 guys that are on the team. They are going to be going up against the South Korean team, who are ruthless, very good, and totally dedicated to their sport.
Of course.
And those include generic Asian men with increasingly long hair, up until their team captain, who's guy with eye patch.
Oh, boy.
Short-haired guy with eye patch.
You give a guy an eye patch.
Right. So the U.S. team is training. They've got to come together as a team.
Of course. I'm picturing a lot of Is there montages?
There is a montage about every 5 minutes.
I'm picturing montages with like 80s music.
Yep. That's how you know it lives.
Sweating.
It's so in the shadow of Rocky 6 or Rocky 4, and that it's just a lot of sweating, but not as much as you would think. It's like a lot of montages of them sitting and not doing much. Like there's a woman who shows up who is a trainer, and she's trained in like Eastern philosophies and things like that. And she's played by the lady who, in Die Hard when they're in the news studio, Sally Kirkland, when they're in the news studio and she's one of the anchor persons. She's the one who says, hostage, terrorist, terrorist, hostage,
right.
study in duality. She's been in tons of stuff. Like you know who she is just based on her hair alone. She's the only woman in the whole movie except for Eric Roberts' mom. And you think that there's going to be some sort of love interest there. Nope.
No,
it's all business.
She's just
all business. She's just there to work. James Earl Jones is a hard-nosed, no-nonsense coach. He's got 2 rules: never be late, and the other one that I can't remember. Both rules never come up, except for one time. Now, the men's team's training. They're getting along fine. Chris Penn is the jerk.
Classic.
They go out one night for a night of roughhousing or whatever, get into a fight in a Texas bar.
Of course they do.
Because Chris Penn tries to steal a guy's girl.
Right, and they got to bust out their moves.
They do a whole karate fight, like 5-on-20 in the bar. It's awesome. Couple weeks go by. They're still training. Eric Roberts gets a phone call. His son has been hit by a car.
What?
He gets a phone call and he goes, "What? When? Oh no!" And then you just see him running. He's got this long hair too. Have you ever seen Samurai Cop?
No.
Oh, I can't recommend that you watch it, but you should still see it. Look up clips online of Samurai Cop, and then it's one of the worst movies ever. Anyway, so he's running to get to where he needs to go, and he gets there, and James Earl Jones starts yelling at him for being late. That's the only time being late.
You're late.
Ever. Yeah. And he goes, "Coach, I got to talk to you. I got to talk to you right now." So they go outside, and the coach says something. He goes, "Coach, I got to go. I have to leave. My son was hit by a car. He's in the hospital." And James Earl Jones is like, "You leave, you're off the team."
Jeez, he's really no nonsense.
And they go back and forth, and eventually James Earl Jones goes, "You need to make a choice. Your family or the United States karate team," or something like that. Eric Roberts goes, "There is no choice." So he goes,
the karate team.
Yeah, right, yeah. He goes home, and while he goes home, and it immediately just goes to a hospital, and then you just hear a voiceover of a doctor talking about his son. He says, "It's not the broken leg we're concerned about. Your son is in a coma." And then they show the kid in the hospital bed,
poor little guy,
asleep with all the tubes and stuff, which is terrible.
Right.
And then I think it's all there just to give Eric Roberts a chance to act.
Right.
Because he's standing there going, "Daddy's here. Daddy's here." And then he leaves and he goes back to the karate team.
So he's fighting for his son now. He's dedicating his
Well, he always was.
Right. But now it has a little more purpose.
I guess, because it never comes up again.
Right.
He goes back to the karate team and he says to James Earl Jones, "I want to be back on the team." "No, you made your choice. You're out." And then he goes, "You want me to beg? This is all I got. This is all I got. I'm nothing without karate." And so then he just kind of like leaves. He leaves. Then this is when the filmmakers decided Eric Roberts should not be the main character of this movie.
What?
They go, we should have gone with the Asian guy as our main character the whole time. And the character's name is Tommy. I don't know the actor's name. Character's name is Tommy. The actor is Philip Ree, who he's in a lot of the best movies. That's really it. He has a whole backstory that you don't hear about until right before they go to Korea.
Now, how far into the movie is this?
This is easily 70 minutes into this 90-minute movie.
So there's 20 minutes left, and all of a sudden we're just shifting our focus to
There's
this
20
guy.
minutes left, and we're still training. Right? So Tommy has been holding back the entire time, and James Earl Jones has had it. And we find out why Tommy's been holding back.
His son's in a coma.
No, Tommy's brother was killed by the guy with the eye patch in a karate fight. So Tommy watched this happen as a child while this kid has got to be 8 years old sitting in the stands of a karate tournament eating an ice cream cone. And it's got to be 20 years later now, and he's going to fight the same guy that killed his brother. And they keep showing the same montage of his brother getting his head like kicked in,
Right.
And the mother holding his head on the floor of the match crying, and the ice cream cone falling out of his hand and
The poor ice
hitting
cream
the
cone.
ground. Yeah, that's the biggest.
You never want to see
problem.
ice cream go to waste.
No, it's a shame. It looked like it was vanilla too, which is my favorite. So Tommy's got to come to grips with all of that. So Tommy, during training, kicks bearded guy too hard. He kicks him with all his strength and all of his rage, and almost kills bearded guy. And he's like, I can't do this. I can't do this. So he like runs out, because they all run, but like with like the head running to the like waving to the side to side. You can't see what I'm doing, but it's like like exaggerated head motion running. He gets to his motorcycle, and there's Eric Roberts to try and talk him into staying. He says, you need to get this behind you. If you don't do this now, you're never going to do it. Meanwhile, Eric Roberts is like leaving because he's been like quit the team.
Yeah.
And so he goes on for 5 minutes giving Asian guy the pep talk. And then he goes, and if you're just going to leave, then you're an asshole. And so then he just leaves. And then Asian guy just leaves. He like drives away on his motorcycle, where we get another 5-minute motorcycle montage of him cruising down the highway at 35 miles an hour. So at this point, at the end of the motorcycle montage, he gets to a gas station because he's got to fill up. And while he's there, he sees a station wagon with two brothers eating ice cream cones, and the little brother's ice cream cone falls out of his hand.
Oh boy.
Falls and hits the ground. Reminds you of something.
Yeah. His ice cream.
That's right, Ray. Big brother gives little brother his ice cream cone. Tommy's back. Tommy's
That's all
back
I
in
needed.
it. That's all he needed.
Little inspiration.
We didn't need
back on that
we didn't need the
motorcycle.
5-minute speech from Eric Roberts. But if Eric Roberts didn't delay him, we wouldn't have seen the ice cream cone fall. So basically, Eric Roberts and Tommy are back on the team. We all go to Korea.
No, we're not even in Korea.
No,
yet.
we're still in America. We take a flight to Korea. The tournament starts immediately, and it's just 5-on-5, like two dudes at a time until the end. In the event, and it's like that karate style where it's like point, red,
Right.
point, white. In the event of a tie, it comes down to block breaking.
Oh boy.
Got to punch through the bricks,
Right.
right? First, Bob Saget guy goes first.
Bob Saget guy.
Gets his ass kicked. Bearded guy, I think, goes second. Gets his ass kicked. Chris Penn goes third. Does a little ass kicking. It's a tie for the match. Comes down to block breaking. Chris Penn only breaks 7 blocks. Asian guy or Korean guy breaks 8. Chris Penn's in. Now, here's the other thing. We just watched 75 minutes of training. It's finally time for the karate tournament. It is so chopped up.
Right.
It's like 2 seconds of each guy fighting their big match, including Chris Penn, who's supposed to be like this hard-nosed, like kind of grizzled fighter. We get to see about 10 seconds of his fight. And at the end of each fight, each guy's face is so bloody and mangled. And because it's Korean rules, anything kind of goes.
Anything goes in
except for groin kicks.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, come on.
But it's totally cool to kill your opponent because, yeah, totally cool. That's how Tommy's brother died. Yeah. That was totally legal because the fight was still going on. Right. Chris Penn loses, but the Americans are climbing back. The fourth fight is Eric Roberts. The protagonist of the story fights 4th out of 5. He wins. Spoiler, of course. But not before he gets his shoulder, like, wrecked again.
Oh, no.
Like, totally, like, wrecked, and he has to have it all taped up. They have an injury timeout, and they tape his arm up.
Injury timeout.
His chest, and so then Eric Roberts wins the fight one-handed. What an act of bravery. Then it's time for Tommy to fight the eye patch guy.
Right.
He wins. But it ends with eye patch guy like taking a shot to the head, and then he just kind of stands up with his eyes rolled back into his head because he's
his eye rolled back into his head.
No, because his eye patch has been knocked off.
Oh, his eye patch.
Yeah, so he's got both of his eyes rolled into the back of his head.
What's underneath the eye patch? Like a scar?
No, just like eye white.
Oh,
so
like a dead eye.
It's not like One-Eyed Willie, like it's just, but like he's like unconscious but standing there because the Korean guy's will to fight is so great.
Yeah,
that he can't just let. He'd rather die than lose. So he stands to face Tommy because he wants Tommy to deliver the killing blow,
right.
Which is what he did to Tommy's brother. Tommy won't do it.
He's a better man than that.
Tommy says no. This ends at the cost of the United States losing the tournament. They lose 33-34. They lose because Tommy wouldn't kill the guy. He literally stands there while the time ticks down. They just stand and look at each other while the Korean guy's just like, like the ref should have called the match minutes ago.
Right.
And so he doesn't do it. And everyone's like, good call, Tommy. Way to not murder somebody. Oh, I forgot to mention this. The coach, James Earl Jones, turns out not to be such a hard-nosed guy after all.
Oh, he's got a little bit of a soft side.
A little bit of a surprise. Eric Roberts' kid in the stands.
What?
In the stands in Korea.
He woke up out of the coma?
Came out of the coma.
And flew to
Korea.
Because everybody knows when you come out of a coma, the first thing you want to do is get on a pressurized
Gotta
plane.
go see my dad fight.
Right.
There's a chance my dad could be murdered in front of me.
Right. I need to get on like a 15-hour flight to...
Back then, I think it was the Concorde, so, it was only 5. But he gets on the plane. He's there with Eric Roberts' mom, too. And he's got one crutch, for his broken leg.
Right.
Anyway, so Tommy wins the fight, but the Americans lose the match. They have the medal ceremony where the Koreans are medaled. They put the medal around their necks. When they get to Eye Patch Guy, it looks like at one point Tommy blew out his leg. Like he does that knee kick thing.
Sweep the leg.
But like more of a jump kick into the knee kind of a thing. He hobbles over to Tommy and basically thanks him for not taking his life and apologizes for what he did to Tommy's brother. He says that he's
sorry
the better.
I murdered your brother.
I'm sorry I murdered your brother. You're the better man for not murdering me. Here's my medal. You are the true champion. And then all of the other Korean karate, taekwondo guys come to their American counterpart and give them the medal. They put the medal around the American's neck. America wins. The end. The movie ends on a freeze frame.
Classic freeze.
The movie ends on a freeze frame and silence for a half second. Then the soundtrack kicks in.
Nice.
Amazing film. Totally recommend
I don't even have to see it now.
You don't. You really don't.
I feel like I just got all of it right there.
Let me start over.
Please don't.
All right. So that was best of the best. Definitely worth watching. It was terrible and great. I loved every second of it. I laughed the entire time. They really are. All right. So Ray, last week we started a new game.
Right.
Called, well, we have to answer Matt's question from last week, and the response was so overwhelming again.
we can't.
I'm just not even gonna bother. We don't want to exclude anybody.
Right.
So we're just gonna go right into ConcentRAYion for this week. Nick of Time edition.
Okay.
All right. So this is a game that many people have played, but we invented it when we worked at Blockbuster. Not you and I, but me and other people. The rules of this game are, I'm going to name either an actor or a movie, and you have to name, if I name a movie, you have to name an actor from that movie.
Okay.
And then I have to name an actor or a movie that your actor was in, and you can't repeat.
Right.
Matt's not here, so it's just you and I.
Just back and forth.
And I figure we'd play best out of 3.
Okay.
And we'll see how this goes. So, in honor of your movie, we'll pick Amy Adams.
Okay. Amy Adams.
Oh, right. And you have about 5 to 10 seconds to answer. And in order to win the point, you have to know the answer. So, if I said Christian Bale, and
and you can't get it,
I don't know another Christian Bale movie, you get the point.
Okay.
All right. So, we touched hands. All right. So, Amy Adams,
American Hustle,
Christian Bale,
Batman Begins,
Liam Neeson,
Taken,
Famke Janssen,
Rounders,
Matt Damon,
Good Will Hunting,
Robin Williams,
Patch Adams,
Robin Wright.
I have no idea. I couldn't tell you another person in Patch Adams.
Let's see.
Robin Wright, maybe.
If I'm right, then
you win the point.
Let's see.
Or I got to come back with Robin Wright, right?
It is not Robin Wright.
Okay.
It's Monica Potter. All I knew is that it was blonde murdered lady.
So do I get the point?
Yeah, you get the point.
Okay. So I was naming movies there the entire time, and you were naming actors.
Right. So this time we'll switch it up.
Okay.
And you can start.
Okay.
You can, because you're starting, you can choose whichever one you want.
All right.
If Matt had bothered to show up today,
it would have
changed.
Would have changed.
Time,
yeah. All right. Well, I'll do an actor then.
Okay.
Or an actress. Christopher Walken.
G. Lee.
Ben Affleck.
Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Jesse Eisenberg.
Zombieland.
Woody Harrelson.
Oh God. Oh, I froze. Naturally Born Killers. I think that's out of the time though.
That's fine.
All right.
Juliette Lewis.
Bound?
I don't think Juliette Lewis is in Bound. I think that's Bound is Jennifer Tilly.
Oh, that's who I'm thinking of.
Right? Is that Jennifer Tilly?
Yeah, Gina Gershon.
And Gina
Jennifer
Gershon.
Tilly. Yeah. I always get Jennifer Tilly and Juliette Lewis confused.
All right, so one more.
All right, one more. So we're playing
start.
best of 5 then, or are we just going to...
Whatever you want to do.
All right, I'm going to do movies again.
Okay.
Because that was terrible. Dave.
I don't know anybody in Dave.
Is that the name of a movie?
What's Dave?
Wait, isn't Dave the one with the president? Or is that Meet Dave?
Is that the one with Kirsten Dunst?
You're thinking Dick.
Dick, yeah.
Let's start over.
Okay.
That one's a no. That one doesn't count. I'm going to do actors. Martin Lawrence.
Black Knight.
Oh, Christ. Paul Bettany?
No. Wrong. That's a Knight's Tale. I mean, you screwed yourself with Martin Lawrence.
I did. I thought you were going to go with Blue Streak, and then I was going to go with Michael Rappaport. I had it all mapped out in my head.
I'm going Martin Lawrence. He's definitely going to say Blue Streak. I mean, what else is he going to... He can't say anything else.
Sure. Michael Rappaport is in Blue Streak. I think he is, though. I'm a federale. All right. You win, Ray.
All right. That was a good game. I like that game.
Yeah, okay. You're up 1-0. We'll keep track throughout the weeks. If you're listening to us on the Podcast Radio Network, thanks for tuning in. We're on here every week at 10:30 p.m. right after Let's Talk Flicks. Check out thisweekinfilmpodcast.com to find out almost everywhere else we are. If we're not on a podcasting app that you use, excuse me, please let us know because we don't know about it and we'll get on there.
Right.
Ray, do you have a random request for next week?
Yeah, I do actually have one.
Let's hear it.
This has nothing to do with any of the stuff that we talked about today, but I was thinking about this today. Name a movie or an actor in that movie who had a terrible accent. Like, if an American guy is playing a British guy, if a British guy is playing an American guy, somebody who's doing an accent. Right off the top of my head, I thought of Keanu Reeves and Bram Stoker's Dracula. When he's doing, of all people to pick for that movie to do an English accent.
What now, Elizabeth?
They picked the guy who talks like this.
I've never seen that. It's just one of those I've never gotten around to.
It's a lot like the novel Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Which is boring.
Where, same thing, the first half hour is really good and interesting, and then it just turns into just a boring story. But Keanu Reeves plays a British, or I guess a Romanian, or whoever guy. He plays a guy with a foreign accent, and it's just
terrible.
Abysmal.
All right. Yeah, so what's a movie with an actor with a bad accent? I love it. Matt had a question he wanted us to ask, but we're not gonna because he didn't bother to show up.
Wait till he shows up.
Yeah. And that's really about it. Yeah. Anything to plug, Ray?
I got nothing to plug now.
Check out Charlie's book, Boy Zero, on Amazon. And I have nothing else to plug. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. And if you're not in America, happy Thursday.
It's just a regular old Thursday.
That's what it is to Rocky. To you, it's Thanksgiving, but to him, it's Thursday.
That's right.
Tied it in the movies there. If that's the end of the reel, we'll see you next week in film.
See ya.